What is the primary motivation for the companies who have these kinds of field sales and services teams? What are they trying to do? And it's not always save money. Optimal, like I said earlier, isn't always just saving money. Sometimes optimal is being better than your competition so you can get the best people.
How we can basically harmonize all these things together to find the common things which can make most of the people happy, or if not all, and then operate in that order.
I had the privilege once of going to visit the Unilever campus in the UK, and it's surrounded by the housing that they used to provide to their employees, and I was like, wow, think of a day when the company provided housing or the company provided the company store.
Hello everyone, welcome to BetterTech. So today with me on this amazing podcast is Ryan. Hello Ryan, how are you today?
I'm great, Haseeb. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks for asking. So Ryan, first of all, thank you very much for making the time and really glad to have you on BetterTech. So before we really start, why don't you go ahead and tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, it's kind of a boring story. I'm a career-long product manager, and for me, with my gray hair, you can tell that that's a long career. And I was in product management before product management was cool. Started out as a graphic designer, actually, and when software came about, the thing that really excited me was graphic design was all about how you deliver a message using words and images and colors and context and everything put together. And software, to me, was just taking all those same concepts, but rolling it up into how you deliver a capability, being able to use everything that can come through a screen, audio, visual, the whole thing. It was absolutely just a groove for me of being able to bring everything together to be able to enable people to do things faster, better, cheaper, more effectively. And so once I figured all that out, stuck with product management and kind of swung around a little bit in my career, being more like sales and marketing oriented, but have always come back to, if you have the right product, everything else works better.
That's great. So, you said that you started working on product management when it was not that cool. So, really, at that time, was product management being confused with project management or program management, or what really was happening at that time?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Even today, when I tell people I'm in product management, they're like, "Oh, so you keep the schedules and you keep and I'm no, product management, not project, not program, not product management." So it's still not totally mainstream. Like, not everybody gets it. My family still just says I work with computers. They don't really know what I do. So when I started out, it was the idea of really merging kind of almost the CTO role of the dev lead with program. Here, I'm doing it now, product management. And it was much more tied to directing how we build and where we build and why we build. And that was back in the 80s, and then in the 90s, it became much more separated, where it was, the people who lead the developers are very different than the people who connect what we do to the marketplace and build the requirements. And it's been awesome to see how that's just continued to evolve, where now we've got the sophistication of product management versus product ownership versus product marketing versus product design. That used to just, when I first started out, that was all squished into just, they're the smart people that you talk to that can tell us the whys and wherefores. They're over here's the smart people who build it and make it work. So it's a great evolution to have been part of and to see happen. It's really interesting to think that that's happened within a single career.
That's amazing. So how have been your journey at Motus in product management?
I love it. It's been, Motus is a really interesting company in that it was brought about by the merger of two organizations. One organization had really invented the space and had been around for literally many decades, from the time of creating an outsourced service via pen and paper and just using people to digitizing that experience. And then another company that disrupted that and brought standards and simplification and the latest and greatest technology, merging those two together to create Motus, which now is the market leader in vehicle reimbursements and really serving companies whose success depends on their field services teams visiting locations and customer sites every day in order to be as part of their job. So if you think about those kinds of companies that they have field sales services and support teams that are continually leaving their home, driving a route, and going back home at the end of the day, driving is not their job. They are technical people, medical specialists. They are salespeople. They are folks who fix everything from windmills to power stations to people's bodies. And they are doing that at the location. So companies in these kinds of businesses, they really require that kind of mobility in their field forces. And one of the challenges that they have then is how do you fairly reimburse those people who are driving many times or most of the time their personal cars to be able to go do this critical role. And it's a really interesting niche, but it's such a fun thing to always work for a market leader and to work for a market leader where the team is working together so great to really try and stay ahead and innovate for the customers in the marketplace, to continue to simplify and make the solution more efficient. So companies can focus on what their core business is, not spend a whole bunch of time worrying about how they're reimbursing their people.
Sure. So, coming back to product design, how do you think your expertise actually mapped on to what Motus is doing?
Yeah, it's I have to give credit to a lot of the people who created the industry and created the company. I've only been with Motus for 2.5 years, and like I said, the legacy of the company is decades long. So I'm standing on the shoulders of really great people who designed amazing stuff and got us to where we are. But what we've had to do in the last few years is really bring a refinement to that and really understanding what is the primary motivation for the companies who have these kinds of field services teams, field sales and services teams. What are they trying to do? And it's not always save money. A lot of time it's they need the ability to attract and retain the best people. So they need a way to figure out how to do that equitably and to be able to have all the visibility controls in place to make sure they're doing the right things, not just throwing money at a problem. And our solutions were really at a point where we could focus on fine-tuning and really getting the market alignments driven to what is the big problems happening in the marketplace and how do we pull that back into a solution where the technology extends human capability and gives the organization, our customers, better visibility and control so they can achieve the optimized levels that they're looking for. And that's really a key thing is optimal, like I said earlier, isn't always just saving money. Sometimes optimal is being better than your competition so you can get the best people.
Okay, so what I wanted to ask is, so there is a market, there is a market need, there is a product, there's a technology. Now, these are
Yeah.
different pieces. They need to align together to offer a solution which is beneficial for the market, for its users. So, how you have seen these things coming together in case of Motus?
Yeah, this is great. One of my favorite sayings in product management is fall in love with the problem, not the product. And market alignment is the heart of this. What is the problem that these kinds of customers are having? And if you can identify that correctly and accurately, you can build technology solutions that solve that problem, not just in a way that your customers can tell you about, but in a way that is the next step beyond what your customers can imagine. And give yourself the capability to innovate and drive a marketplace where you're solving the problems that the customer is about to have instead of the problems that they had last year. And that's the most exciting thing about where we're at is really thinking about all of the challenges and all the challenges that the customers are having today, where we think that's leading and how we bring technology product, which is the packaging, the solutioning, the pricing, all of that together in order to solve that problem. And I think we're being really effective in being able to bring in things like machine learning and artificial intelligence to be able to extend the capabilities of people, to be able to make it faster and easier for them to do a job that is not part of their core job,
there are a few pieces that you talk about. Technology is one, product is another one, market is another one, then there is a user. So all these things need to align, or you can say fit together in the correct way, in the correct order to make a solution. So in case of Motus, how you have visualized these components and glued them together to offer a solution which is now a market leader.
Interesting thing is we're focusing on what traditionally is called full stack technology, where you have a mobile application that the users use. You have an administrative and approval workflow platform that the corporation uses. You also then have payment gateways and payment processing that move the money from the corporation to the employees. And then you have all the auditing and reporting that fits on the back end, especially with a product like ours, where there are tax implications and data that people need for their personal taxes and for corporate taxes. And when you have that kind of full stack solution, you have to be able to pull things together where you are serving each of the individual users very well and solving their unique problems. But at the same time, there is a macro problem that holds the entire structure together, and that delivers the benefits of the buyer component. So that brings up this, what the industry commonly refers to as B2B2C, or business to consumer, which is exactly what you described. Is Motus is selling it to a corporation, and the corporation is providing it to their users. So you have that multiple tiered value proposition being held. One of the things that I've always loved is that there's a product management saying of fall in love with the problem, not the product. And the key here is you have to understand whose problem you're solving. And we've identified at least 4 different personas along that trail that that each have problems that they want to solve. And the corporation that would be the buyer of the solution has a set of problems that they want solved as well. And if you take all of those, you can kind of Venn diagram them together to find the things where if we do this, we make everybody happy. If we do this, we make these parts happy. If we do this, we make these parts happy. And in total, you need to do enough of those things that your product has that leadership position and you can really stand out from the crowd. And that's what you're always trying to do, is find the heart of the problem, using the technology and the product as a tool, and a fungible tool. That's really a key thing, is you can't be like, well, the product is this, therefore. I'm sorry, but people's problems exist if your product is there or not. You really have to stay focused on the product as a way you solve a problem, not the thing.
Right. So, I mean, you touched on really like how we can basically harmonize all these things together to find the common things which can make most of the people happy, or if not all, and then operate in that order, right? So, but I mean, putting these pieces together in a way that solve the problem would require a very good team
Yeah,
to basically
absolutely.
operate on. And the team is basically, I mean, something which is the core of this whole product development, I would say, right? And the teams basically follow a leader who they believe in. So, what has been your leadership style?
It's in recent years, I've really focused on something that I call aligned empowerment. And, this is a really tricky concept because you have great people. And I am, especially here at Motus, I'm incredibly lucky is that I've got a phenomenal team. And that's not just the product team, but my peer, the chief technology officer, who's also named Ryan. So that makes it very interesting for us. Fortunately, his name is spelled Ryan, and my name's spelled Ryon. So that's how we can tell the difference as to which one we're referring to. But just a phenomenal team overall. We've really just got a great working environment. And when you have that great working environment, the team generally wants to be very empowered. They want to be able to take on the problem and go solve for it. But as we were just talking about, if you've got your mobile app team that's focusing on the end user, and you've got your primary app team that's focusing on the business user, and you've got your data analytics team that's working on the data warehousing and the reporting and the dashboarding, and then you've got your payment gateway team that's dealing with that. You also need those teams to be able to work together with each other and to stay in sync. So the concept that I really try and drive is this aligned empowerment. And alignment is really the responsibility not of the leader, but of the employee. At whatever tier they are, they need to make sure they understand why we're doing this, how it relates to the overall mission, how it relates to our business objectives, the customer's business objectives, how it builds revenue, how it builds customer satisfaction, how it builds team morale. The employee has to be aligned to where the company is trying to go. If the employee is aligned to that and understands that, then they can demand empowerment from leadership to say, I'm executing the mission as defined. These are the resources. These are the support mechanisms. These are the things that I need in order to effectively execute my part of that mission. So aligned empowerment to me is the key. As long as everybody understands where we're going, trust them to navigate their way through the jungle and get to the, golden gates at the end. But everybody needs to know where we're trying to go, or they're going to go through the jungle and all end up at different locations. And like we talked about, each of these people that we said have problems that we're trying to solve under a single corporate buy decision. So it has to bring us all to that one point. And that's my key theme in the last few years has really been focused on this idea of aligned empowerment.
Great insight. So the product that you're working on, Motus, that's in the domain of fleet management, right? So you would have worked with several companies and you have seen their processes and then you optimize them. So what challenges or maybe some of the core pain points that you have seen the companies are having with whom you have been working in this particular domain of fleet management?
Yeah. So it's really interesting is fleet management. I want to expand it a little broader than that because the fleet is defined as the corporation owning vehicles. And the main problem there that the corporation is trying to handle is a company owning and providing cars to its employees spends a lot of time and energy distracted by managing that fleet of vehicles that's not relevant to their core business. If you're in pharmaceuticals, biotech, wind energy, traditional energy, construction, medical, if you're in any of these industries, buying, supporting, maintaining fleets of cars is not core to what you do. So it's a big distraction. They're trying to get out of that. And just like, think historically, I had the privilege once of going to visit the Unilever campus in the UK, and it's surrounded by the housing that they used to provide to their employees, and I was like, wow, think of a day when the company provided housing or the company provided the company store. But then I thought about in my generation, in our generation, there was a time where you didn't have a mobile phone or a mobile computer unless the company provided it because of the cost, complexity, all of those things. But those became consumerized enough, not commoditized, but consumerized enough that it didn't make sense that the company take on this huge burden of trying to manage and maintain all that. The employee could bring it with them to work. And I'm grateful that I'm now at a point where I'm not having to carry two phones around with me all the time, especially because the corporate provided one was typically kind of a brick compared to what I was buying for myself. And to be able to now offer that same kind of flexibility where instead of the company providing a vehicle that may not work for me. And when I say may not work, it's if I have big dogs, or if I love kayaking on the weekend, or if I have children, whatever it is, I have preferences of the kind of car that I want to use and drive on the weekends and evenings, and that works for me. And that same thing could work for my job. But typically, the car provided by the company isn't going to work for that. And so being able to get the company kind of focus on what they're good at and provide them a way to give a reimbursement to their employees that is fair and equitable and gives the company all the same visibility, all the same controls to optimize the amount of spend that they want to put into this, like we talked earlier. If it's so that they can be more competitive in the market or so they have a more competitive bottom line in the market. We give the capability to the corporation, and that allows them to optimize if they're coming from self-reported mileage from their employees to an expense management system. If they're running an allowance program today just to give employees money, but it's all compensation and taxed, we can change that for them. Or if they're providing fleet vehicles, we can bring that together into what we call the future fleet. And what the future fleet really means is the company does have certain assets that it makes sense for the company to own. If you have trucks that are full of expensive equipment or are customized to be able to do that specific kind of work, no person is going to buy that vehicle to drive around on the weekend and go to the grocery store. But if the job you have or the role that you're asking your employees to play doesn't require specialized equipment or a specialized vehicle, they can use their own vehicle, and you can take that out of the company mix. So the company does what it has to do, what is appropriate, and what the employee can bring to work, the company can now effectively reimburse them for and allow the employee to have that choice of what works best for them, their life situation, what's most comfortable for them, and how they want to spend their money on a really critical piece of daily life for most of Americans, which is what kind of car you drive.
Mm-hmm. Right. So as we are approaching towards the end, I would really like to, understand from you that what are some of the future trends that you are seeing in the fleet management or, vehicle technology in general, and what factor do you think will have the most impact on how these companies manage their vehicles and their fleet in general?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. And unfortunately, the very first thing that I need to focus on is the cost of these things are continuing to go up. Car insurance, for example, is one of the highest inflation factors over the last few years. And it's just because of the technology, the demand, where these parts are coming from, the availability of resources to work on them.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things are driving repair costs up at a very rapid rate, and insurances are having to kind of follow that. With that, we've all seen what's happening with fuel. We've all seen what's happening with car prices. Everything's getting more expensive. So as those things are getting more expensive, it's requiring the corporation to really look at where do you want to spend your time and money. So the second step there is, again, another unfortunate aspect is kind of a negative side. It's the risks associated of how do you manage risks with these, the number of employees who are out on the road every day. And you want to have those tools and technologies that allow the company to provide a balanced risk for their employees as well as for the corporation as the employees are driving while on the job. And the need for corporations to mitigate that risk is continuing to increase, and we are very focused on providing really good solutions that give the visibility and controls to put that risk into a very controlled space for the organization and allow them to choose their risk profile and manage to that very closely. The last thing is that technology continues to get better. And as technology gets better, it becomes easier and for an employee to be able to really effectively show this is business mileage and this is what I should be reimbursed for, and do that with a minimum of effort and really teach their mobile device, this is what I'm doing for work, this is what I do personally, and have those things automatically adjudicated as it moves forward. Same thing for the corporations is being able to extend the capabilities of the few individuals who administer these programs, allowing them to do a better job, more accurately, really fine tune it to get the company the perfect outcome that they're looking for and really provide the advantage, be that the recruiting advantage or the cost savings advantage, whatever situation the company is in at that time, and to be able to dynamically shift around those things to be able to really meet the current needs. As technology gets better, managing what is a somewhat complex process today, going from the users to the approvers to the payers to the auditors, we can make that flow, and we're continuing year over year to make it a more simple but more visible, more insightful process with greater controls so that you can really, really tweak that optimization.
All right. Yeah. So, Ryan, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And maybe we can have another session where we take a deeper dive in product development or product design or product management in general, like discussing it at length as how, I mean, latest technologies or latest procedures or processes can really aid that. But your input related to Motus as well as product design and product management in general today has been really, really insightful. So thank you very much for your time today, and I hope to host you again in another session really soon. Thank you.